Red Bull in my veins. It's just naturally produced. Meet the team at Soundbooth Theater.
Welcome to an especially special segment of Meet the Team today. I am your host, Emily Labus, here reluctantly as always. But today it's very special because I'm joined by the man himself, our founding CEO and lead narrator, Jeff Hayes. I know everyone's been really excited for this one and to, get into the mind behind the madness. So I'm just going to dive right in here. Normally, the first question we ask in these things is, what is your SBT origin story? So like, how'd you come to work here? But for you, I guess we got to ask, what is Soundbooth Theater's origin story?
Probably a couple years after deciding to do audiobooks, I discovered Periscope. That's what it was. I was trying to remember the name of that for so long. That was Twitter's streaming platform. I don't know if they still do it. But I decided, hey, let's try this streaming thing. I'd never seen a narrator do streaming before, so I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I really enjoyed it. And at least the few people who were watching me enjoyed it as well, and they just kept coming back. So I would narrate things that people would suggest and request. I would narrate, bits and pieces of the things that I was working on. It was a lot of fun because it was a lot of interacting with the audience, getting to read horrible things. One of those horrible things was Everybody Loves Large Chests. That's how I got that job, is people just kept finding passages from the Royal Road version that they wanted me to read, and they would be sending the most awful bits. They were amazing. I loved them. I love narrating things that make me squirm, and I love saying horrible things. So that was kind of the birth of Soundbooth Theater right there, because I had to come up with the name of the show, Soundbooth Theater Live. That's what it was. I basically started the company. Let's see, it was Sin, it was Justin, it was Alex. I don't know if it was Soundbooth Theater yet by the time.
I don't think it was, because I think Soundbooth Theater would have been 2017, because I came on a year later in 2018, and you'd been around about a year at that point.
Yeah, but I just wanted to have a brand. I wanted to start my own company because I was lonely more than anything. I just wanted people to talk to about work, and I wanted to have some kind of interaction with people on a more regular basis. And I didn't really feel like I had a place in the larger narrator community. Most of my interactions with narrators was through the Indie ACX Facebook group, and I just didn't really feel like I fit in there. So Soundbooth Theater was kind of my way of starting my own narrator club. But I also just wanted a brand to build up, because that was sort of my strategy from the get-go. Was I want my name to carry weight when it comes to audiobooks. I want people to start searching my name on Audible rather than just authors' names, so that they could, oh, well, what else has Jeff been up to? And so instilling that into a brand was kind of my way of telling narrators who wanted to work with us, hey, this is what we're doing. Is we're trying to build a brand that people will search. And if your name is under that brand, not only, so we're kind of helping promote each other. And it just snowballed, everything snowballed, because just idea after idea that weren't necessarily connected, just going towards building this company and building what we've got today, which is pretty fucking insane when I think about it. When I think about those origins just being like, hey, this would be neat to, we have an app, we're a tech company now. This month we've sold probably more than any other month this year in the Dungeon Crawler Carl audio immersion tunnel. Lots of revenue being generated through the app. Starting the app was like a Hail Mary to a certain extent, because Audible being where I started my business, I can't help but feel some gratitude towards them in that regard. That's where everything started with this company. But, we're also just not anything to them more valuable than another person who would sign up to ACX today. And considering that the deal that we have with Audible, which is not very good, Um, I figured it's in the company's best interest and my best interest to build a platform that people can find our content on, where we'll be taking the majority of the profits. So obviously, a lot of investment has to go in first in order to make that work. There's a reason they have that position in the negotiation to say, look, take it or leave it, because it's a pain in the fucking ass to build a platform and to be a publisher. But I'm the kind of person who will put his money where his mouth is. It's a blessing and a curse. And everyone's in the company's been awesome, helping steer the ship, helping make things happen. And that's why we are where we are, because we have such a great team. And I like to think that the philosophy that I had from the beginning of my career has been a big part of why this company's doing well.
I would certainly say so. Well, I mean, you're obviously super busy between running the business and also being our most prolific narrator at the same time. So I'm curious, what does Jeff Hayes do in his extremely limited downtime?
Lately, I play a lot of music and I read a lot of comic books. But also, I've been reading a lot of novels now. I think comic books, I discovered them about a couple years ago when I went to hang out with Matt Dinniman at Rose City Comic Con, this company called Aftershock Comics.
Mhm.
They had this amazing table at the Rose City Comic Con. They had all of their trade paperbacks of all of the stuff that they'd published so far. And for me, it was like a revelation. Comics don't just, it's not just capes. It's anything that people wanted, every genre imaginable was on that table. And it all looked really good. And I picked up a bunch of stuff. And that's kind of where my obsession with comics had started. So it's been a couple years now. I've built an embarrassingly large collection of comics, and it really got me into reading for fun. And now I'm reading fantasy. I'm reading other novels by more people that I'm meeting in the industry. That's not just lit RPG people, but also I'm picking up lit RPG stuff to read in physical form, not in Kindle form. Fuck digital when it comes to reading. It's nice. It's nice to be there. Not, I mean, like, obviously everything, that's just how my brain is wired. When I start getting into something recreational level, it inspires me to want to
Mhm.
actually do it in business. So in that way, comics, I'm kind of wanting to start reaching into that not too long from now. But also, I'm like retroactively doing research on the people in my industry already, like actually reading more stuff in the high fantasy, in science fiction, and like going going to investigate those people more. It's been inspiring, and like it's kind of eye opening. And being in this business myself, I have a tendency to just focus on the things that I'm working on. But that in reality, that's not a good way to go about things when we're starting to come into the publishing world ourselves. It's been great investigating more fiction, more novels, just for my own personal gratification, having fun reading. But music, of course, having gotten back into it so much more because of Monster Hunt, because of Dungeon Crawler Carl, all the music I've been playing for that. Yeah, I'm really inspired to get to play more and more. And of course, I got that bass back there. That has been my prized possession for the past year that um, I've been playing with.
I have to laugh a little bit because I asked you what you do when you're not working, and both of the things that you highlighted are things that you also do for work, which is fine. I can't believe jujitsu didn't come up at all, but whatever.
Because I'm not doing, number one, I'm not doing
No.
jujitsu for fun. I've done jujitsu once this year, visiting Ben Wolf in Davenport. He actually lives in Bettendorf, but Davenport's like right there, and that's where the actual con was. He brought me and Ryan Reed to his jujitsu gym, and that was both awesome and awful. Jujitsu, for those of you who have never practiced, is taxing. It's a very, very difficult art. And yeah, it just reminded me just how much of a fat ass I've become. I used to do way more jujitsu when I was, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. When I think I had a nice big burst of jujitsu when I lived in LA before Soundbooth Theater even got started. I trained at a 10th Planet out there, and it was amazing. That was the only time I really enjoyed jujitsu is when I was at that gym. And it was the hardest. It was also the hardest I had to work, but I just really, really preferred their approach. They have a very cerebral approach to jujitsu. And also didn't have to train in a gi. I hate wearing a gi. It's so hot. It's like wrestling while you're wrapped in blankets. It doesn't make any sense. I hate it. It's miserable. So
sounds cozy.
Yeah, it's not. I hate it a lot. It's about as uncomfortable as I can get. But I have been doing Krav Maga at least once a week. I don't like it as much either. Krav Maga is, sort of more focused on self-defense in like on the street situations. I'm not really learning anything additional from like a competitive sport. I like kickboxing a lot more. I want to do more of that. I just need to investigate more gyms around my area and find places that do that in the morning, because in the morning is when I want to be doing my martial arts stuff. But I'm back at it. I'm not as sedentary as I was a year ago. That's good. I need to do more.
Absolutely. We all do. So like returning to work stuff, sort of, what would you say is your favorite Soundbooth Theater project that you've worked on thus far, and why?
Yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl, no question. And the fact that that's my favorite, and it's also so ridiculously successful, I can't imagine a better position to be in as an artist. Right?
Yeah.
How it's almost impossible to reach that kind of moment in an artist's career. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of musicians, writers, anybody talking about how sick they are of their biggest hit. Because it's not the thing they wanted to succeed. It just happened to be the thing that succeeded, and so they have to work on it. Dungeon Crawler Carl is everything I want out of a story. Amazing characters, incredibly inappropriate, a surprisingly deep story.
Yes.
Right? It has this veneer of silliness and humor and absurdity and surrealism. That's like the outer shell of it. But at its core, it's a very terrifying and deep story. It's very much questioning, I think, the direction that our culture is going in, and that's pretty important to me, because I don't, there's things about our culture right now that I'm upset about. It's like the richest characters I've dealt with in a piece of fiction as a performer, for sure. There is so much depth in Carl and Donut. Those two main characters go through so much growth from the beginning of the story to where we're at now, end of book 6. It's pretty astonishing, especially, again, on the surface, they're silly characters. They're kind of cartoony, but so many times throughout the series, Matt will just kind of flip the script on you and surprise you with incredibly potent emotional moments between the two, and not only their own character growths, but the growth of their relationships. Like, there's not a single character that's wasted in the series. I just find it so fascinating how economical Matt is with his writing, with his storytelling, with his characters. They're never wasted. There's always something cool that happens that's unexpected. You don't expect the things he brings things back, and he doesn't overuse either. It's just, I don't know. Every point of the story I find to be well crafted. I just always am nervous and hoping that I'm living up to what he's got there. So,
well, I might be biased, but I certainly think you are. Of all of the character voices that you do and all of your series, Which one is your favorite? And could you please demonstrate it for us by reciting your favorite limerick using that voice?
Probably Quantum Hues. So yeah, there's a big soft spot for me for that character because, well, he's just such a psycho, right? And he's fast talking. The way that Harmon Cooper writes him, it's a delight to just try and speed through all the wacky things that he says, and it's all just sort of right out of his pocket. Everything just kind of just pulls out like one of those strings of handkerchiefs. It's just like that's his character in a nutshell. Just like constantly pulling stuff out, constantly just verbal diarrhea that you only think is funny if you think about it for a second, because he's just going by. It's just going by so fast that you can't always catch everything. Yeah, his enthusiasm, he's just, but it's enthusiasm and bitterness at the same time. So I think that all gets encapsulated by this voice. It's it I don't know. It's just the most fun one to do for me. I, yeah.
Yeah.
Quantum Hues for sure. I don't
No.
know a limerick. He would be a great limerick
I was gonna
reader.
say, yeah, that was like a great quantum improv, but just the worst limerick I've ever heard.
Not a good limerick. Not at all.
No, but it was good improv. So I guess moving forward, what would be your dream narration or voice acting project and why? And I guess for you, that could also be, I've kind of tailored this one to whatever the person I talk to does. You do music and voices. So, music could be a component as well.
What I want to do more than anything is Neil Barrett Jr.'s work. He's a very obscure author. I've done 3 of his audiobooks that I really loved, but he died the day before I got this first job pattern. This was like back when I was just absolutely nobody. I've probably done 3 or 4 audiobooks at that point. But Stress Pattern, I auditioned for it. I waited a few days, and then I got the email that I got the job, but that he had died the day before. So it was just a weird coincidence. And I read the whole book before I started narrating it, and I was absolutely floored. It's like the guy's never written a bad sentence. The craftsmanship behind his writing is beyond belief for me. I've read quite a few of his books. Like, if I could do a cinematic audio of one of his pieces of work, I would love to, because there's so much there. There's so much depth in his work. He's just such an artist, and I find everything he writes to be so inspiring, and he's just really good at using the right words to evoke a very specific image or feeling. And he's, I don't know, so relaxed about it. And it's really hard to describe. It's a type of writing I've not ever encountered again. The only one who comes close is maybe Joe Lansdale. They kind of have they have sort of similar feel, but Neil was just incredibly economical. Again, that's another word that I like to use when about writers who I admire, is when there's not waste. They write exactly what they want to write. Yeah, if I could do like the Aldair Chronicles through Darkest America, those 2 are the series I would like to do the most.
Cool. You touched on something. I've retired this question, but I'm going to bring it out of retirement because I want to hear your answer. How do you find the process differs when you're doing a classic audiobook versus a cinematic audio?
It depends on from which direction you're approaching. So a classic audiobook, there's not really much other work to do, right? There's the script's right there. Read it. The rest is just like how I process the characters, right? And that's the difference between narrators, is how they process character voices, whether they process character voices or not, right? Some narrators out there, they just narrate and they just tell you what people are saying rather than being the characters. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot of extra work I have to do. Whereas with cinematic, I guess I get to pull more of the things out of my mind that are happening. When I'm narrating an audiobook, I'm in the scene. I'm there with the characters. I'm experiencing the set. I am considering the tone that the author is going for. So often what I'm hearing in my head is what's going on around the characters, and the music that, I like music pops into my head, right? Those ideas just get to come out and play when it comes to cinematic. If I take a novel and, convert it there, and again, there's not that much that I'm doing with the script, aside from like omitting some things and putting that into the sound effects box instead. Okay, we want to hear these things. And there's descriptions of the ways that characters say things, right? Take those out. Let the actors take care of that, right? And then, the music to me is probably like, the thing I'm most excited about tackling, whether it's me actually composing or me talking to other composers and saying, okay, these are the things that we want. I'm actually pretty detailed when it comes to talking to other musicians about what I want to hear for a scene, down to the instrumentation often. There's more going on than just the words at that point, right? You're converting words into the actual experience. But then there's the other approach, which is starting from scratch, starting the project as a piece of audio from the get-go. I can't speak to writing stories myself, but it is a more collaborative process because the writer then needs to talk to me and be like, how do I communicate what I want the sound effects people to do, right? And so there's that collaboration there where I'm kind of like a go-between, a translator between the writer and the people doing the production. And I think that we've done a really good job of developing a new script system to take care of that. And now we're working in the dreaded Excel to create scripts for these cinematic audio experiences.
So I'm not going to do my scripts that way, just for the record.
You might. You might. You might. You have to see these scripts, and if you
are they prettier than mine?
Prettier than you? Yes.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Well, I mean, I know it's hard to believe because it's Excel. There's colors. There's lots of colors. There's so much organization when it comes to cinematic audio. With audiobooks, the way that we do them, we do multicast often, so there's already that having to coordinate with actors and stuff. But with cinematic, I'm doing a lot more directed sessions rather than just handing the file over to somebody and saying, do this. I'm saying, okay, we're scheduling this time. I'm going to direct you. We make sure to get the right performance that we want. So with cinematic, it's just about detail. We're more meticulous, and we're just pulling out more from the text to create a more detailed experience. So yeah, I guess that's the answer, is just I get to fuss with it more.
And we know how you love to fuss.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were not a narrator, voice actor, musician, CEO, lover of breakfast burritos, what would
breakfast burritos?
I know you do.
God damn it, Matt. They did not have the fucking hash browns in the damn burrito. I told him.
It's okay, Grandpa. Go back to sleep.
I told him.
Okay, so if you were not all those things, in other words, if you had a completely different career, what would you be doing?
The thing is, with this career, it's not like it was a plan. It was just like this. Nope. This. Nope. Hey, this is working. Okay, let's just keep going. That's how this whole thing started. Like, I had given up on music, right? Because it's so hard to make money at music. But maybe if I hadn't succeeded as a voice actor, I would have come full circle and just started trying music again. I have no idea what I'd be doing. Maybe it would be martial arts. Maybe I'd be a fighter right now. When I discovered martial arts, I actually discovered that I actually like war, I never thought I liked war, because war to me was what countries do to each other. I never wanted to be a soldier because I never believed in the cause. I don't want to be a sucker who's just fighting for someone's political gain. That's always what war has represented to me.
Imperialism, yes.
Right? But that's actually not the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that war is about resolving conflict. I think that there's a lot to be said for people who can stop conflict from happening. Also, I just like to fight, you know. I just like it, right? I like the feeling, and I like the humility that comes with it. It's literal physical reminders of mortality. So, you know, maybe I'd be a fighter. Maybe I'd be an MMA fighter. I just grabbed onto what worked at the time. So it's like whenever I find something that works, I hold on to it and I just keep going.
All right. Well, this one is just like a purely fun one. If you could have one not so superpower, what would it be?
A not so superpower. It would be the ability to stay awake better while drinking.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Or you know, not necessarily drinking, like doing any
Yeah.
kind of substance generally, right? Like
Sure.
because a lot of the time when I smoke weed, it just makes me sleepy.
I've seen it. Yes.
You know, yeah, right. Or you know, when I get drunk, I'm like, all right, I've had enough partying. I'm going to bed. No, man, I want to be able to stay out longer and fucking hang with everybody. You know, so
Finn, if you're watching this, he's totally just kidding. That's not it at all.
I'm joking.
He's kidding. Mine is lighter fingers. Like I would love to be able to snap and produce a flame.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
like that idea.
right. But it's like it's not that. I mean, I guess it's like you could commit arson if you had other tools. So, but I think that counts as a not so superpower. But I like yours. That's that yours is more like something you could actually attain, which is interesting.
Maybe.
It's called Red Bull.
Right. Red Bull in my veins. That's
intravenous
that's
Red Bull.
Intravenous. No, it's just naturally produced in my body is Red Bull.
Sure. You just secrete Red Bull.
Right.
All right. Okay, I think we need to move on before this gets grosser. So we are celebrating our app's birthday this month. And as per usual, we're doing all sorts of exciting stuff to celebrate. What's the thing that you're most excited about for our birthday that we're celebrating?
I'm both very excited by and terrified of episode 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl coming out. I'd like to be able to say something that has nothing to do with work, but no, like that's the one thing that's just constantly on my mind right now, and I always want to be improving. I always and I want to do right by that series, and I know it seems like it's not that much of a leap to go from audiobook to cinematic audio for this, but it's very important to me that I represent this story. Like, if I'm taking the responsibility to bring it to flesh it out even more than the audiobooks have, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm doing something that lines up with Matt's vision well enough. And you know, sometimes I'm just nervous about that stuff. I've seen so many movies, audio dramas, animations, or whatever that have not really stayed true to the original subject. There's a lot that you can fuck up going from just text to expanding out into whatever medium you're taking it to. I just want it to be good. I want it to be right. Not just good. I want it to be like in line. You know, I want Matt to be happy. Like, he's probably the one person who I'm most concerned with making happy when it comes to this here, you know, because he made the thing, and it's because of him that all of this exists. I guess that's the thing I'm most nervous about, is just making sure Matt's happy about it. I'm just never quite sure. I'm never quite sure how he feels. Maybe that's just me being paranoid, but
do you hear that, Matt? You're withholding with your love.
or your hate, you know, whichever, you know, I'll take whichever as long as it's the truth.
Well, I'm really excited, and I don't think you have anything to worry about, but I think the fact that you do worry is part of what makes you so great. So if you could talk to 5 years ago you, what's the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Slow down. I guess, you know.
Good Lord, I wish you had given yourself that advice.
Yeah. Slow down, be more careful. I'm very excited about ideas. I'm very excited about doing things. Maybe that advice would have meant that we wouldn't have gotten where we are today, and maybe slowing down would cause us to not jump on the opportunities that got us where we are. But there's an element of mental health that I ignore quite often for myself. So success comes at a price, and often that price for me is just worry, right? Worry and nervousness, and not being able to really enjoy the fruits of my labor. The thing is, even that piece of advice to me, I'm debating it right here.
No, right. Well, because as soon as when you first said it, I was just like, wow, that would have been so nice. But you're right. If we had done anything differently, I mean, there are hundreds of different variations of this reality where we're not right where we are.
Hey, and maybe saying slow down, we would have like not done things that turned out to be a dead end for us, and we would have been able to catch a better opportunity.
Well, that's true too.
And so yeah. It's hard to say, but I can only speak from how I feel as far as that kind of shit's concerned, and I feel constantly overwhelmed. So slow down. That would be it. Here's a better piece of advice: don't stop doing jujitsu.
Here's one. That Emily girl, you should pay her more.
Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one.
No, I'm like saying 5 years ago. Imagine if I wasn't in credit card debt right now. Anyway. All right. Final question. You've been so great, so generous with your time. This has been super fun. Looking ahead to the future, what would you say is like your top priority long-term goal for Soundbooth Theater?
I would say building up our cinematic audio library. There's a lot of things that I would like Soundbooth Theater to do. Sound for movies, sound for video games, for animation. I think that would be great. That gives us an opportunity to spread our brand some more. One thing that I've done unexpectedly over this past 10 years is develop a passion for cinematic audio or audio drama in general. I made the mistake that everybody makes when it comes to audio drama from the get-go, is seeing it as a medium that maybe one settles for. Since having that attitude and since producing more and more, I'm really believing that this is its own thing. It's not just a stepping stone between a book and a movie or a book and an animation. It is its own thing. Experiencing things purely through audio, it's a different problem to solve. It's a combination of production, music, and acting, and all of that, and still using the listener's imagination, which is, what people do when they're reading a book often anyway, is like they get transported to this world. They experience it in their mind in that way, and they're able to imagine all these things. Audio it works the same way, except we just get to play more. There's more dimensions to it, bring it more to life, even more rich than when I'm reading a book, and something that I want to take this medium forward. I want it to be more in the mainstream. For lack of a better term, I kind of don't like the word mainstream, because I kind of have a resentment towards the mainstream anyway. What I mean by that is to make it something that people don't cock their head at when you mention it. I want it to be something that people talk about. It's just another thing that people do. More higher standard can be brought to this medium. We're doing that. We're at least, I think that there are other studios out there that produce the quality of work that we do. I don't think they produce as much as we do, and I don't think that they're being properly promoted. I think they're just kind of in the same mix on Audible, right? Like that's, and then there's podcasts, right? There's podcasts out there that do this audio drama thing, and with the exception of a few, they're generally produced by people who are, and this isn't a dig at them, amateurs, right? They're doing it in their off time when they're not working. They don't have a budget. They don't have access to professional actors. They're cobbling everything together as they can, and they may be passionate about it, but it's still always going to be in the this is available because it's free type of area. I know that sounds shitty, but it's just the reality of people's time and what they have access to. Whereas, with us, we've made connections. We're a troupe of actors. Everyone who's in this company who produces is now experienced, and we have goals. We have a standard of production that we want to continue to keep up and keep raising the bar. And the fact that we have our own platform to do it on, and we don't have to rely on another company, it's all in our own hands. So I think we have an opportunity to do that, and I think maybe in the next decade we might succeed in that. So that's my goal.
And if we succeed in that, then I get to start expensing my Botox.
No, no.
No, I love that goal, though, in all seriousness. And when you mentioned the cocking of your head, that's so relatable, right? Because like when we first started getting into it, it was so funny, like explaining what I was writing. If I was talking to somebody over the age of 65 and I said audio drama, they'd cock their head and I'd say like a radio play. And they'd say, oh. If I was talking to someone younger than 65, I'd say, oh, it's like a podcast, but fictional and with music and sound effects. And you could see the wheels turning, but it was still, yeah. It's just, it's wild how, it's, I feel like we're so immersed in it every day that we see it, but it is crazy that when you think about how many people don't even know that this is an entertainment option.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a certain extra hill we have to get over, because a lot of people have bad experiences with audio drama. There's a lot of bad audio drama out there, and it's about budget, right? It's about, the way that the people that come into the medium kind of see it as well. I think a lot of actors, especially like the Hollywood types, they see it as like a thing to do between gigs. But this is my bread and butter. Like audiobooks is how I'm allowed to do all these things. So being in people's ears all the time and doing my very best to make the best performance possible, I'm already used to doing that. That's what got me here. So I'm already approaching audio drama from that perspective of, okay, I'm already used to people being entertained by what I do. Let's just take it that one step further, and let's treat everything that we're doing in production in cinematic audio the same way I'm treating the audiobooks, which is I'm here, I'm going to do the best I possibly can and make it as rich and true to the story as possible.
And I think that's really our philosophy for everything, and a perfect note to end on. Jeff, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll have you on another one of these once we cycle through the whole team.
Someday. Thank you, Emily.
You did give us an awesome opportunity to talk about our birthday sale on October 17th. It runs for 2 weeks into Halloween. Celebrate our birthday with us.